Hello guys and welcome back to More Than MS. And I say welcome back, it's been a while since I've done my last podcast video. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to do a little reintroduction because there might be some new people who've not come across my podcast videos before. And to those who have, just bear with me, you're going to maybe hear the same repeat things, but it has been a long time, so let's treat it as new information. So my name's Danielle, I'm 27. And I have been living with MS now for about 10 years. So when I was 17, I lost my eyesight in one eye for about 9 months. I was on my way to work and I got to work and I realised, hang on, I can't see the screen. I thought it was my glasses I was wearing, so I took them off, cleaned them. I was like, wait, no, I still can't see the screen. Then I realised, shit, it's my actual eyes. So after a few tests, and I talk about this more, there is an episode called The Diagnosis Story. So if you want to know in more detail what that experience was like, then I definitely recommend going and looking at that episode. So I got tests and they first of all said to me, oh, we think it's something called optic neuritis. Now, optic neuritis is a very, very common first symptom of MS. It's essentially where the optic nerve gets inflamed and it stops that signal from your brain to your eye to see. So that's it in simple terms. It usually happens temporary. Temporary could be, like for me, it was 9 months. And luckily it was just one eye, I could still see out the other one. But obviously it was very scary. I mean, I could literally put a flashlight up from my phone, like in front of my face, and usually with your eyes closed you can see if it's light or it's dark. I could not see a thing. It was just greyness. And I used to wake up every morning by like the window and I'd put my hand out in front of the window to see if I could like see the outline of my hand. And then I just kind of got used to, okay, I'm not going to be able to. The doctors told me that it should get better. So I kind of held on to that thought, and then one morning I remember it so clearly. I went downstairs into the kitchen and I wasn't even doing the whole hand thing anymore. I kind of gave up with that. But I just like went to go make myself coffee and I suddenly saw this movement of like my hand and I was like, oh my gosh, did I just see my hand move? So then I went up to the window and I put my hand in front of it again and I was like, oh, I went, Mum, I can see my hand. And I just remember that. It was just like, wow. And then weeks went past and my eyesight started coming back and back, and then it came back to 20/20 vision. Like it came back like nothing happened. And I just remember that time in my life because it really, really was an eye-opener. Pardon pun. No, it generally was. It was like everything that I had been stressed out about in my life didn't matter anymore because I could see. And I feel like from a young age I really realised like what was important in life. And if you are living with a health condition in whatever shape or form that looks like, then I really do believe that you kind of have your priorities slightly different to those who haven't experienced it. And you know, it's a weird thing for me to say, but in a way, this is very strange, and I've said it before in my other podcast videos. Having MS and being diagnosed with it has actually not been the worst thing to happen for me in my life, because it has given me this brand new like lease of life. And I feel like I can go one of two ways. At first, I wouldn't have said that at first because I think I was so young. Because then it took me 2 years to actually get diagnosed. So I was 19 when I was diagnosed, and like any typical 19-year-old, even though I had these new, you know, kind of like, wow, like this is insane, like I can see again, because the reason I was diagnosed at 19 was I went blind again, but in my left eye. So I went through a lot, but at the time, I think I was so young and probably a bit immature, I didn't really deal with things in the best way. I don't think I let it sink in that I actually have this lifelong condition. So I didn't treat my body very nice. I would just go out and get absolutely blackout drunk every weekend, every single weekend. And I just did a lot of things to like distract myself from what was actually happening. But then I still felt, every time I was drunk or out, I was like, oh my God, like I went blind and I can see like life is so amazing. But life really was just work and drink, work and drink. And that's all I really knew. And I can't blame myself. Again, I was 19 years old. I hadn't even seen the world properly yet. And it's not until now, like going into my later 20s, that I've really discovered, hang on, okay, yeah, partying, that was great for then. But I've lost my eyesight and it came back twice. I really can see, and it's given me this opportunity where I just want to explore the world. I want to do everything that I can, because in my head I'm like, I want to do it whilst I can. So luckily I grew out of that mindset of just living for the weekend. Don't get me wrong, I still like to have a drink, I still like to have a little party, who doesn't? But I've just discovered there's so much more in this world, and I really truly believe that I would not be who I am. I would not have this mindset if it was not for my MS diagnosis. So that's why I decided, it was about a year ago now, that I wanted to start doing podcasts to share my experience with MS and to help other people if maybe you're just newly diagnosed, or as a community, because I've only really discovered the past couple of years and what an amazing community there is out there for people who are living with MS and other chronic illnesses. Because when I was first diagnosed, I don't know, I didn't have a problem telling people that I had it, but I definitely didn't have an Instagram page around MS, and I wouldn't dream of doing podcasts talking to people about what I've gone through. So what I'm trying to say is that if you have been newly diagnosed, give yourself time to really understand what this means for you. And you don't have to know it all right now, you just have to know how you're feeling currently, presently, because how I dealt with it, say 10, even 5 years ago, is completely different to how I deal with it now. So let's kind of talk about what I've been up to, because it has been 8 months since my last podcast episode, and it's a lot. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I've had a very, very full-on, interesting, challenging year. It's had its highs and it's had its lows, and I'm not gonna cram it all into this one episode because it would be too much. So we're just gonna kind of condense them a little bit down. But there is one main factor in my life that's kind of thrown my life upside down in the best way and in the worst way. So we are going to be getting into that today. So, I'm currently unemployed. I'm currently unemployed. I didn't think I'd say that, and not in this podcast. I'm saying I just didn't think I would be unemployed, but I am, and actually, I'm going to tell you the reason why. But what I'm going to tell you first is this era of my life of unemployment has actually given me time, because this is what we don't think about much. We're always striving to, I need a job, I need to pay for, yes we do, and I'm actively searching for a job because I'm not rich, I can't live without money, I wish I could, but I can't. But yeah, it's given me time, and that's what I'm trying to say, is that the mindset of, okay, I'm in this situation right now, I'm doing everything I can to get out of it, but whilst I'm currently in this situation, instead of thinking too much about the future or thinking too much about the past, just live in the current moment. And that's what led me to decide I need to get back and do these podcasts, because whilst I have all this time, the biggest factor of who I am is I just want to share, educate, help people, anyone who can relate, So I was sitting there one day and I thought, I have not done a podcast in forever. So I need to come back and do it. And what better time than to be unemployed? I've got all the time in the world. So I'll tell you why I'm unemployed. Let's circle back to January. I was working a full-time permanent position in sales for a tech company, and I enjoyed it. I liked the people, I liked the atmosphere, it worked for me, but it wasn't my passion. And I was reading up, I remember reading about something called Ikigai. I think that's how you say it, I'm not sure. And I think it's a Japanese belief, but I'm not sure. Anyway, I think it's called Ikigai. Ikigai, I think, is where it's an old belief where you think about what are you good at, what are you passionate about, what could you earn money from, and then kind of combining them all together. So for me, I've always been very creative. That's one of my number one passions, anything creative. And number two, one of my biggest passions and what I kind of live for is to help others. It's human connection and just helping in whatever way I can, but I have a main interest in sort of mental health through my own sort of lived experiences and the need that it's one of the biggest things. And there is another episode I've got on that as well, but I'm trying to keep this one short. I'm going to try and keep myself from talking too much, which is a challenge. So anyway, I've worked out that is what my Ikigai, if that's what it's called, is. So I'm sitting there in my tech job, typing away, and I'm thinking, how would I even get into something like that? Like, what is there out there, like creativity, mental health? Because I know that creativity has helped my mental health massively, and I know it helps so many other people's, whether that's painting or art, music, cooking, gardening, even that's creative. Like, there's so many things where it generally helps people. So I'm like, I know there's got to be something out there. There's got to be. Anyway, long story cut short, I come across a role working for a creative mental health charity. I thought I hit, what's it called? The jackpot. I thought I hit the jackpot. I was going to say lottery, and I was going to say jackpot and lottery in one. What would that be? Anyway, I digress. What I'm saying is, I thought this is me all over, and it really was, and it was amazing. And I got the job, and I worked in schools, and worked with children, and I was helping them through creative techniques to learn sort of coping mechanisms, and I worked with adults as well. I loved it, absolutely loved it. It was a dream, but it was a charity. Now, always working for a corporate business, I know that there's risks in charities, but I was more than willing to take the risks. For me, life's too short. Especially in a situation where I live at home, I'm just like, right, well, now's the time. Let's take all those risks. The worst risk could have been that the charity didn't have any more funding, because they weren't government funded. We relied purely on sort of donations, and sort of applying for grants and stuff. So it was a concern, it was a worry. And long story cut short, 6-7 months into my role, I got the news that the charity no longer has enough funds and my role has been made redundant. And that's why I'm here today, unemployed. However, it is a sad thing. It is, I feel devastated that this role has not gone to my sort of, I really thought I was going to be there and make a difference, which I was for the short time that I was there. I also feel really deeply for the founders of the charity, because it was such a beautiful, amazing idea, and I know that it helped so many people. But me being me, I'm trying to look at that in a positive way. And the way that I'm looking at it is, it's truly shown me that work does exist. And it's also truly shown me that I loved every second of it. And I didn't feel like I worked once. I felt like I was just, every time I left my house, I was like, I'm going out to make a difference. and I'm putting all my passions together and I'm doing it. So yeah, it didn't work out, but what it has shown me as a person, that's where my heart lays, is genuinely helping people, working with people face to face to overcome obstacles and to help them, and not just sat behind a desk. And for so many years, I just didn't believe that there was work out there like that. And I've seen it, I've done it, I've been it. So, if anything, thank you, even though it was not as long as I would have liked. It's given me that opportunity, and it's kind of given me a step into that world. And I know that there's more out there. So, I'm in a situation where I'm not going to settle. I'm actively looking for work. I do have something that is potentially lined up that I am excited about, but I don't want to say anything because I believe in jinxing things. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut there, and I will keep you guys updated if it comes to light. If it doesn't come to light, I'll still share with you guys what it was, because it's all learning curves. You're not going to get everything in life, and that's okay, because one door closes, another one opens. It's all about the mindset. So I'm not going to talk about that just yet. We will put that to the side. But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing this year that's happened for me. And like I said, during this time, this uncertain period, that's what life is. It's just nothing goes to plan, because at the start of the year I was like, wow, I'm like, this is me now for my life, I'm set, this is where I'm gonna be. And it's just funny how life just literally goes, no, it's not. We're gonna flip that upside down. But it's how you deal with things and the strength that you get from that. But it's quite funny, coincidentally, when well, it's not funny, but when I was going through this really stressful period and I didn't know what was happening with my career, this is actually quite serious. I don't know why. Why do I say, oh, it's funny? Anyway, I had my first ever, well, for a few years, I've had my first sort of symptom come back of MS, which, okay, I'm going to say it's funny again. It's not, but it's funny because they say that stress is the biggest leading factor to any form of illness. And I was actually reading and watching this video of this guy explaining how with chronic illness, most of the people that have them tend to be very stressed out, or they've gone through trauma in their lives, or they've just, sometimes as well, another interesting fact, it tends to be more women that live with a chronic illness. And a further interesting fact, it tends to be the eldest daughters of families and the ones who feel the need to control everything in their life, aka me. So I kind of really relate to that theory, and over the years I have learned how to de-stress myself, because I would get stressed out over the most smallest things and I would turn them into this huge big deal, and I would seriously stress myself out when there just was not a need. And I've learned over the years how to kind of change that and not be that way. But this year, obviously, you're gonna go through things that stress you out in life. You can't control that. But you can control how you deal with it. But with this situation, I was of course very stressed out, and yeah, coincidentally, I then have. I'd like to call it a relapse, but I don't actually know if it is. The doctors don't know what's happening either, which is also really stressful. Basically, I was on holiday a few months ago with my partner, and we went to Barcelona. And I think it was the second day. I woke up, and this is going to be, stay with me on this explanation because I don't know how to explain it to people. Basically, when I woke up, and then you wake up and you close your eyes again, close my eyes, and I could see like this shape. It was like in a shape of like a country, like Italy or something. And it was like kind of like a yellow like glow. And I was like, first thought was, shit, I'm going blind again. Because of course I've been blind twice in my life. So of course I'm gonna be thinking, shit, I'm going blind. Because I've not had anything like this since then. So I was really worried, I was stressed out. As soon as I came back home, I went to go and see um, my MS nurse, and I was talking to her about that, and she basically said that she doesn't think it's MS related. I was like, what do you mean? What could it be then? It's like you kind of feel like, oh, okay, well that's kind of a good thing, but then you're like, is it? Because it has to be something, because I know something's going on. She was like, well, do you have pain when you move your eyes? I said, no. And then when they took the scans of the back of my eyes, there was no inflammation. Whereas if it was my optic nerve being inflamed, that would have shown on the scans. So she referred me to the eye department at the hospital. They did further tests and said, no, your eyes, they're perfectly healthy. There's nothing wrong with them. And I was like, but how? Because like, it's still there. It's been there for months now. And they were like, well, it's probably something to do with your brain then. So we're going to refer you back to the MS department, and we're going to book you in for an MRI. So I'm still waiting on that MRI, and the MS team don't think it's anything to do with MS. The eye department go, no, your eyes are healthy. It's your brain. So I already know my brain's obviously a little bit messed up. So we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens there. But that's obviously pretty stressful as well, which kind of reiterated to me, hang on, MS is still there. It still affects my life. Which even further made me think I need to get back to these podcasts, because it helps me talk about these situations, but also because of the nature of MS and it being so random, and no one, not even doctors, really understanding much of it, it's so important to have that online community, because you could meet people that go, oh my god, I had something similar, and it's a way for people to just connect. And the MS community online, I mean, I've only really sort of, like I said, been knowing about it all the past couple of years, because I didn't really put myself out there to like having my MS when I was younger. But they're honestly amazing, and I think that's probably one of the best things to come out of having a chronic illness, is just seeing how people connect and relate to each other and are there for each other. So yeah, I'm hoping that these podcast episodes, I'm not going to let them slide for as long as I have, and I'm going to be releasing them fortnightly, so every 2 weeks, and we're going to get into more details about sort of my life over the past year, because I don't want to just throw it all at you guys straight away, but together we're just going to be exploring life, being in your 20s, dealing with a chronic illness, work, friends, relationships, everything just combined, because it is a lot. It is a lot. So, yeah, stay tuned. And also, if you'd like to like or subscribe so that you can keep updated, and if there's anything at all that anyone wants me to sort of bring up on here or mention or talk about my podcast episodes, please just send me a DM. My MS page is called More Than MS on Instagram. So just message me, we can connect and we can just talk about things. And I always hope that these, even if it's 5 people, that these episodes will reach, but they can help people more than you think. As long as we speak, we talk, we're open, that's all we need to do. So take care, everyone. It's currently bank holiday, so I hope that you have a lovely bank holiday, and I will see you in a couple of weeks. Bye.